Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, richarddwyer.com, on Roku, Dwyer Boxing, and Sports News. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Well, Top Rank, following Golden Boy, has now sued Al Haymon over the PBC, right? Top Rank has some pretty big lawyers, right? Daniel Petrocelli, of course, used to represent Fred Goldman in his successful lawsuit against O.J. Simpson, right? My point to you, though, is based on what I've heard, what I've been reading about this lawsuit online, this lawsuit is thin. T-H-I-N. It's thin, folks. Expect a motion to dismiss. It's a federal lawsuit. In California, if it were state court, it would be a demur. Since it's a federal lawsuit for you law students out there, it's a motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim, right? I'm expecting this lawsuit to be pared down. I'm expecting perhaps the complaint to be amended. Maybe a portion of the lawsuit survives just based on plausible questions of fact. But I believe even those questions of fact will ultimately be decided in the defendant's favor. Right? Let's just say this lawsuit seems fishy to me. Understand, people sue other people for a host of reasons. Sometimes it's actually based on a claim they think they can win. Other times it's to cloud the marketplace. Right? There's a great interview that Colin Cowherd of ESPN did of mogul Mark Cuban, where he asked Mark Cuban, are there any downsides to being rich? And Mark Cuban responded by saying the lawsuits. Right? If you're wealthy enough, someone someplace is going to sue you. Right? The stated purpose of the lawsuit, the stated reason listed in the pleadings, right? The complaint, for example, might not be what it's all about. It might really be more about the plaintiff trying to get a piece of the action. The plaintiff wanting a fight with the defendant. Didn't top-ranked fighter Manny Pacquiao sue Floyd Mayweather for supposed defamation? Right? Didn't those two guys ultimately end up fighting each other? Right? Now, my point to you is simply this. Let's go over some of the claims here. I view this lawsuit as the horse and buggy crowd suing car makers after car makers came up with the automobile. Right? This is the old guard, the entrenched guard, the people who've made millions off the current status quo, suing the new guard, right, who have been paying fighters top dollar. Right? Let me just say this too. Understand, I'm a total bystander here. Right? As far as I know, I have absolutely no ties to the plaintiffs or the defense. I'm just a boxing fan. Right? But think about how ridiculous portions of the complaint are. Top Rank is alleging that the promoters for PBC fights are a sham. That Al Haymon is violating the Ali Act, which prohibits boxing managers who owe fighters a fiduciary duty from also serving as boxing promoters. Right? Now understand how ridiculous this argument is. Understand why I can say here online, I don't think the plaintiff can even prove this portion of their case. Understand that Lou DiBella, who has worked with the PBC and who, people need to know this, is a graduate of Harvard Law School. Right? Lou DiBella has a law degree. Understand, before Lou DiBella, right, started working with the PBC, he was a championship promoter. Right? He's the promoter for Sergio Martinez, the former middleweight champion. Right? Lou DiBella is not a sham promoter. He's a championship promoter. I know there's a new Rocky movie coming out. Understand, Lou DiBella's in one of the Rocky movies, pretty much playing himself. This is a world-class promoter, right? Understand, Lou DiBella's a real promoter. If he's called to testify at a trial, he's going to say, oh no, I'm a real promoter. I've been a real promoter. I have a promoter's license, and yes, I have promoted some PBC events. How's any plaintiff going to convince you that Lou DiBella's a sham promoter? Let me go one step further. Goosen Promotions. Understand, Goosen Promotions promoted heavyweight contender Chris Arreola, right? It promoted, before Andre Ward signed with Rock Nation, it promoted Andre Ward. Goosen Promotions are a real promotional group, right? Check them out. Go back. They've been in the promotion business for well more than a decade, right? They also have promoted PBC fights. How is any plaintiff, I don't care if it's Daniel Petroselli as the attorney or whoever, how's any plaintiff going to convince a trier of fact that Goosen Promotions is a sham promoter? Understand, if Lou DiBella or the current people involved in Goosen Promotions take the stand and say, yeah, we promoted this fight like we promote any other fight, the plaintiff won't be able to prove this portion of the case. Just to understand how ridiculous it is. Think about this too, right? Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., the former middleweight champion, posted a check of $1.75 million on a social media website. And believe it or not, the plaintiffs are referring to this as somehow proof that Al Heyman was serving as the promoter for the fight, because the check is to Chavez Jr., apparently from Al Heyman. Now, I can tell you, I'm a lawyer, and often, an opposing side would rather cut a check to me than cut a check directly to my client. Right? Because there's bad blood between the parties. And because I'm the legal representative and I have a fiduciary responsibility to give my client the money. Right? They know I have an office. They know I'm not going to disappear. They know I'm a member of the state bar, so I can't lie about getting the check. Right? If you're a lawyer out there, isn't that what attorney-client bank accounts are for? Trust accounts are for. Now, the point is simply this. Right? If Al Heyman is the fighter's manager, and the fighter has authorized Al Heyman to receive the check on his behalf, and keep in mind, managers owe their fighters a fiduciary duty, just like lawyers owe their clients. Right? Then if the promoter gives the check to Al Heyman, and Al Heyman turns around and gives the check to the fighter, that's not proof of anything other than, right, the chain of payment. So for the plaintiffs to mention the fact that Chavez Jr. got a check directly from Al Heyman is laughable. Now, this might play in the press. This might play with casual fans who want to believe there's widespread corruption in boxing. But let's just say it's a whole lot of nothing. Right? It doesn't prove anything. Let me make another point here. Believe it or not, after the initial lawsuits, right, brought by Golden Boy and other people, people approached the United States Attorney General, right, the head attorney in the country, and asked them to investigate the PBC. That's how ridiculous it is. Now let's think it through. There's so little there, right? There's so little evidence of any wrongdoing whatsoever. If there's any evidence of any wrongdoing whatsoever, that nothing's happened. Right? The Attorney General's office hasn't brought any charges. So instead, what we get is this top-rank lawsuit. That's laughable. Here's another claim. Think about it now. I used to live in Southern California. Southern California has so many venues that if you move right or left too fast, you might bump into one of them. Right? The Ducks play at the Pond in Anaheim. Great facility. Right? The Angels play at Anaheim Stadium. The Dodgers play at Dodger Stadium. The Lakers and Clippers play at Staples. The Lakers used to play in Inglewood at the Fabulous Forum. Right? You have the Hollywood Bowl. I'm telling you that if you're in Southern California, right, I haven't even named the Rose Bowl. I haven't named USC's Coliseum. Right? There's so many stadiums that if you're from back east like I am, when you first get to Southern California, you're looking around, you're like, my God, there's so much here. It's ridiculous. You know, it's just ridiculous. Well, let me just say this. Part of this lawsuit, right, and of course you have StubHub where you have a lot of fights too. Part of this lawsuit claims that Al Heyman somehow has been monopolizing the booking at all of these arenas in Southern California. Did the person who wrote this complaint do it with a straight face? That's a laughable claim. Understand, fights can be held anywhere. That Canelo, James Kirkland fight was at Minute Maid Park in Houston. Right? Miguel Cotto has fought at Yankee Stadium. Go back through boxing history. Right? Davey Moore got hurt in a fight held at Dodger Stadium. Right? Understand, boxing can take place in many venues. Many venues. Now the claim that one outfit is monopolizing the venues, is that reasonable to you? Do you find that remotely believable? Somehow the LA Galaxy is able to find places to play. You're telling me Top Rank can't find venues in Southern California? Does that sound remotely believable to you? So let me say this. I know Top Rank, which is in the promotional business, has a lot of PR people, right, spinning things. I know they want to convince you that the entrepreneurial outfit that is the PBC are somehow a bunch of crooks, a bunch of gangsters, right? Obviously, if they could convince some up-and-coming prospect to sign with Top Rank, right, instead of with the PBC, right, then they will have, succeeded somewhat, right? Come, fight on a Top Rank event. Don't fight on an event on the Premier Boxing Channel, right? Okay, fine. But viewers of lawsuits like this have to realize that the lawsuit lacks meat, right? Where's the beef? How are you going to even make a showing at trial? How are you going to hoodwink a jury into believing that Lou DiBella and Goosen Promotions aren't real promoters? Right? Keep in mind, in boxing, these are licensed promoters. Right? Also, you, the fight fan, should be outraged. The people paying top dollar in the sport, right? The people who really are giving fighters maximum exposure. The people who are allowing you to see these fights on your TV free of cost. Understand, they're the ones getting sued here. right? It's ridiculous. They mentioned the fact that Chavez Jr. got a check for $1.75 million. Folks, Chavez Jr. deserves $1.75 million. This is a sport in which men have gotten killed. You heard me talk about Davey Moore, right? He died after that fight against Sugar Ramos at Dodger Stadium. These fighters are risking their lives in the ring, right? I'm telling you, you follow the sport long enough, and you see the risks these fighters are taking. I remember when Ali was the best interview in the sport of boxing. Understand, Ali wasn't just a boxer. Ali was a statesman. Back when, research this, Google this, back when you had the Atlanta child murders, there was a serial killer killing black kids in Atlanta. Understand, it was Ali who stepped forward and offered a reward to find the killer. Right? Ali was a guy who would talk about not just boxing, he would talk about politics. Right? Now Ali suffers from Parkinson's. Now we're finding out that Parkinson's and Alzheimer's can be exacerbated, if not caused by repeated blows to the head. Let me name another fighter people don't think about. He was a giant in the sport. He was unbeaten until he faced Sugar Ray Leonard. He was the youngest champion, I believe, in history at the time. He was a 17-year-old who became champion, then was a dominant champion. Wilfred Benitez. He faded from view. Right? According to rumor, he started having mental health problems. Right? You have great fighters like that. Great fighters. Benitez was a great fighter who literally have just faded from the public view because of the health risks involved in the sport, because of injuries they've suffered in the ring. You remember Calvin Brock, the guy who fought Vladimir Klitschko. He was unbeaten, I believe, at the time he fought Klitschko. I believe, according to reports, he's now blind in one eye. That's why his career was derailed. Right? Layman Brewster, who beat Vladimir Klitschko, according to reports, he's having severe vision problems in one eye. Some reports say the eye has healed. But understand, he was perhaps legally blind in one eye for a period of time. Aaron the Hawk Pryor, right? If you know Ohio boxing, right? We recently had the Battle of Ohio. Sean Porter against Adrian Broner. Understand, one of the guys who laid the road for them, right? One of the great fighters in Ohio history is Aaron the Hawk Pryor. I believe the Hawk has severe vision problems in one eye. Look at the great trainers in the sport. Nacho Beristain, problems in one eye. Joel Diaz, problems in one eye. Freddie Roach, Parkinson's syndrome. Folks, these are the great trainers in the sport. Right? And so my point is simply this. Are you really supposed to get excited about a lawsuit filed against an outfit that's paying fighters top dollar, that's taking risks, that's literally creating a market? Understand, Al Heyman's group buys time on NBC. That's how they're getting exposure. They're taking risks. Right? How could they be sued by folks who aren't taking that risk? Right? Is Golden Boy buying time on NBC? Come on, man. So, I'll just say this. Understand, people sue other folks for a host of reasons. The complaint is just the opening salvo. You should not take for granted or assume the veracity of the allegations in any complaint filed by anyone. Right? This complaint is going to be tested by various motions, including a motion to dismiss. even if it survives a motion to dismiss, Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 12b-6 for the law school crowd, right? Even if it survives a motion to dismiss, that doesn't mean it would survive a trial. Right? Some ridiculous claim like Al Heyman is booking up all of the stadiums in Southern California. Some ridiculous claim like that. A judge might say, you know what, well, it's plausible that they might be able to show this, so I'm going to allow this to proceed to trial. You know, if it proceeded to trial, they wouldn't be able to show it. Right? You know that. You know, if you're a juror and you see Lou DiBella on the witness stand and you say, what's Lou DiBella doing in this case? And then the prosecution's trying to argue that Lou DiBella is a sham promoter. You know, as a juror, you're going to say, no, come on, this isn't going to fly. In fact, you probably don't make it to the jury, right? Because the plaintiffs wouldn't want people who actually know boxing to be in the jury. You can imagine the way it would be. They would have a voir dire. They'd say, hey, do you follow boxing? You say, yeah, I do. You know, I follow boxing going back to the Ali era. It's a great sport. I like the sport, right? The lawyer's going to look at co-counsel and say, we need to get this dude off the jury, right? So let's just say this complaint is thin. You haven't heard about the Attorney General cracking the whip on PBC because maybe there's nothing to crack the whip over. Let's talk about the Alley Act for a second. Understand, a boxing manager, right, can choose a promoter. That's fair. That's the way the sport has always been. Think about the great managers. Just think about the great managers in boxing history. Right? You don't think Ali's manager didn't have a say in choosing his promoter? Come on. It's only when fights go to a purse bid that promoters are hoisted upon you. There's nothing unusual here. Al Heyman having a superstar fighter, wanting the fight to be properly promoted, and then picking a longtime promoter like Lou DiBella to promote the fight, there's nothing wrong with that. Especially when the fighter's getting paid top dollar. Who's getting ripped off? So, view me as a skeptic of this top-ranked lawsuit. Right? I'm as skeptical about this as I was about Manny Pacquiao's lawsuit against Floyd Mayweather when they were trying to negotiate a fight. Right? This lawsuit has some claims, quite frankly, that are simply ridiculous. Right? That really stretch common sense here. Right? Goosen Promotions isn't a real promotional group? Is a plaintiff really trying to make that claim with a straight face? This is ridiculous. Let me hear from you. I understand there are those out there, you've left messages before, who, have very strong feelings about certain promoters. I know there's an anti-Richard Schaefer crowd out there, right? I know some of you are outraged that some of these fighters have their own promotional companies, right? There's Canelo Promotions. There's Miguel Cotto Promotions. There's Mayweather Promotions, right? Let me hear from you. If you're offended by the fact that PBC is actually putting fights on free TV, great fights, right? We just saw Sean Porter against Adrian Broder, great fights on free TV. If you somehow feel that an outfit that might be losing money right now is somehow trying to wield monopoly power, think about how ridiculous this one is. In a sport where the talent can walk out the door at any time, right? I understand getting a monopoly in the car market or in the widget market. How do you possibly get a monopoly in boxing where the talent are individuals, right? Where the next hot prospect, Anthony Joshua, whoever, Joseph Parker, can sign with anybody? How could anyone claim that some entrepreneur who's had to buy time, who has big-time competition in the sport, right, with longer periods of experience than PBC, right? Golden Boy, top rank, right? Huge promotional outfits. Bob Arum's been promoting fights, I'm telling you, since the 70s, at least, right? How could the old guard be accusing this new startup of monopolistic behavior? It's ridiculous. Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. If you feel Lou DiBella at Goosen Promotions and some of these others are sham promoters and that there's something crazy with Chavez Jr. Authorizing his manager to receive payment on his behalf, and if you feel that somehow PBC is tying up all of the boxing venues in the United States, then please leave your comments here in the comment section to this video. This is ridiculous. I'm expecting the defendants to prevail in this lawsuit, possibly at a motion to dismiss level, certainly at a trial level. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. And if you're a lawyer, in fact, if you're involved in this lawsuit, Melvin E. Myers, Daniel Petroselli, if you want to leave a comment here, if you make a video on YouTube, you have your own YouTube account, just forward me a copy of the video. I'll post it here without comment on my website for subscribers to read. And PBC, of course. If you want to forward me your own video, I know PBC has its own YouTube account. If you want to forward me or authorize me to rebroadcast a video with your point of view, I will post it on this account without comment. Let me also say, too, fighters, no. I have an open invitation. No one has taken me up on it. I have gotten a call from some fighters. No one's taken me up on it. But if there's a fighter out there who feels that I have misrepresented them, their career, or this lawsuit, go ahead and send me a video. I will post it here on my site here, my part of YouTube, for my subscribers without comment. Right? I believe in the power of presenting the facts and having the people decide their opinions for themselves. Feel free to forward those videos to me. And if you're a boxing commentator person, an analyst here on YouTube, of course, feel free to pub your channel here in the comment section to this video, as so many have done in the past. I believe a rising tide lifts all boats. I have no problem with you presenting your channel to my subscribers. Thanks for stopping by.